So yeah, thanks everyone for joining on this session. So the exercise that we're going to work on today is on Angular signals. And so I'm going to start by showing you the application we're going to work on, the feature we want to implement, and then just do a couple of reminders on signals because they're very new to the table. And yeah, just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page before we get into the exercise itself. I see my screen is not shared. I want to show things on my screen. There we go. So these are the slides that I'm going to go through in a few minutes. So remember that if you have any questions during the exercise, if you need any help, you can use the Discord channel for that. I'll be monitoring it, answering questions, and be available to help with anything you might have. If you're stuck with your code and want to ask me something, I'll be there to help out. So the spec of the exercise can be found, same thing, on that Discord channel. So it's in Forge Day, Architecting Angular Apps with Angular. And this is the link to the exercise itself, the description of what we are going to do. Now, for this exercise, the idea is to update an existing application. So I'll give you the code repo for this application. And the application looks like this. So it's a license plate store. It's a fake one, doesn't work. I mean, you cannot buy license plates from it, but that's what it looks like. So just a list of products. These products have a picture, a description, a price. And what we want to implement is the ability to change the currency. So right now, we have 3 different currencies, USD, Euro, British Pounds. If I click on any of those, nothing happens. And our goal is to implement the fact that when we click on one of these currencies, all of these prices should change. The currency symbol should get updated. So if I select Euro, it should say Euro, and then the price should not be 11 anymore. We will apply an exchange rate to that price. So we're going to multiply by a value, and then we get the price displayed in euros. So that's really the feature we want to implement. Nothing too crazy, but it's complex enough and interesting enough so that we can see how to architect this with signals, and we can see how to use most of the signals API in that exercise. So most of the signal-based functions to make that happen, we have to use them to implement this exercise. And that's because in order to get the exchange rates for each currency, we have an API call. So in the step-by-step instructions, you'll see that there's an API, which is listed here. And this API returns the exchange rates for each currency. So for instance, I'll make this a little bit bigger. For instance, USD 1, Euro 1.2, GBP 1.27. So these are the numbers you'll have to multiply the price in US dollars into any of these values to get the price in the target currency. So there's information in here, and there's a screenshot of what it would look like at the end. So this it's animated, so you can see it's up and running in action. And when we select a new currency, the name of the currency shows up on that element and then is displayed inside the application as well. So that's the basics for the exercise. Now, because it's an existing application, there's quite a few components in here. So I just want to give you a quick overview of there's only 3 places that we're going to work in. The first one is this component. So the drop-down where we select a new value, this drop-down is a component that is called currency switcher component. And so it has a TypeScript class, of course, it's an Angular component, and an HTML template. And you'll find this in the code repo of the exercise in the source app currency switcher folder. And in the files that we have to work with, I added some to-dos. So just so you can remember where we have to change things and what's the impact of our app, I added some to-dos in the comments, so it's maybe easier to track where we have to change and implement things. So currency switcher component, that's one place where we have to implement some logic to handle the dropdown. So this is a component here. The other component that's going to get impacted is this one, which is the same repeated many times for all of our products. And because it's a license plate product, the name of that component is license plate component. So license plate component is in source app license plate, and that's where we're going to change things. So two different components, and the last piece to share data between these different components is going to be a service. And so we have a currency service, which is at the root of the source app folder. Many to-dos in this one. That's where most of the work is going to be, most of the business logic, most of the architecture of our feature is going to be in that currency service. So these are the three files that we have to work with: currency service, currency switcher component, license plate component. You can ignore everything else in that project. Don't worry about the other code. Don't get scared, or don't get lost in the other files. Just focus on these three things: license plate, currency switcher, and currency service, and then you're good to go. So that's a quick overview of the way that the application is set up. These components are not related at all in the DOM. They are in different branches of the component hierarchy, so they cannot communicate easily, which means we're not going to pass that information using inputs or outputs. Instead, we want to have a service, and that service is going to be injected in both components, and it's going to use signals to make that data, that information, pass from one component to another when we select a new value in here. So we're going to use signals, which means you need to know at least the basics of signals to implement this exercise. So I'm going to go through a quick recap of what signals are about, because we need to use most of these functions, almost all of them. So signal, computed, effect. Signal is how you create a signal. So it's a function. It comes from Angular core. You import it. You call it. You pass it. You can pass a default value to it, and then it returns a signal object where you can read a value or change the value. Nice and easy. That's the basic implementation of a signal. So there's a setter and an update method to change the value. In our case, I think we only need set, because we never derive a value from the current value. So set is the method we're going to need to call on our signals. And the other one that we are going to need, most likely, is computed. And computed is a way to take 1, 2, 3 or more signals and combine them into one new signal. So it's a way really to listen for updates in multiple different signals. And when any of them changes, then that computed function is going to run. And with that computed function, we can derive a new value, or we can just do something, right? So we have any other signal can act as a trigger to run that computed function. And inside computed, we can do some calculations. Maybe we want to compute the price of a license plate when we change the currency, for instance. That could be a possibility. And so, yeah, just do a quick demo of computed. And I did a similar demo in my talk on Wednesday. So here's an example. We have two signals, one for a greeting. So the value is hello, one for a name, value is Angular, and we compute a message out of these two. So we use computed to return a new string, which is the greeting appended to a name and then an exclamation mark. And this message signal is then read in our template to display hello Angular. Nice and easy. And then if I change either the greeting or the text, then you can see that it just works. So if I update one or the other of these two signals, doesn't matter. Everything works, and we have everything being fully reactive. I'll put that link in Discord, so you can access this quick demo on StackBlitz if you want to take a look and practice with it. It's going to be available, and I just posted it there. And so yeah, you need these tools. And the other one that we are going to need, most likely, is the ability to convert or to turn an RxJS observable into a signal. And for that, we have a specific function called toSignal. So with toSignal, you can really take your HTTP request, which is an observable, and turn it into a signal. And that way you can only work with signals and you don't have to worry about RxJS anymore. So toSignal is something we are going to need. And we might want to have a default value for that signal, because the thing with an HTTP request is that it's asynchronous. And so because it's asynchronous, there's a short amount of time during which we don't have any data for it. So it would be undefined. If we want to avoid that and never have to deal with undefined values, then we can pass an initial value for that signal. So here we pass an object with default exchange rates that are all at 1, for instance. So USD 1, GBP 1, Euro 1. And this is the rates observable, which would make a request to the rates backend to get the actual exchange rates. And we turn all of that into a signal. And then we don't have to subscribe and unsubscribe. It's just a bare bones signal that we use here. And so, yeah, these are the functions I wanted to mention because you'll need all of them. So toSignal, signal, computed. With these three, you should be able to get the exercise done. And so as a last reminder, let's go through this. So yeah, you'll want to check out the code, run npm install, then ngserve. It's a regular Angular project, so no surprise here. And then start changing the currency service. Go to the currency switcher, make it use currency service, go to the license plate component, make it use that same currency service. And then the data should pass between your two components pretty easily. What I would recommend is really to go step by step. Don't try to do everything at once in the exercise, and only do the exchange rate part toward the end, because it's a little bit more complex. So I would suggest start with the easy part of just changing the currency. And if I select euro, then here we see the euro symbol. And don't apply the exchange rate yet. Go step by step, nice and easy. And yeah, so you'll have 45 minutes to work on this. If you have any questions during the 45 minutes, use Discord, ask your question there. I'll be here to answer and assist with anything you need. And yeah, I think with all that said, we can get it started.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much. It's a very, very nice and easy explanation for everything, and the cheat sheet as well that has been shared on Discord, and a quick crash course as well for signals. It's fantastic. So I hope everyone is getting notes. And again, just going to echo Alain here. Go to Discord. If you have any questions, it will be available, and other experts as well in the community will be helping you out. So yeah, hopefully coding can be started, and let's connect again in 45 minutes.
Sounds good. See you in 45.
Yeah.